apresentação do Hein van der Voort, querido, do Museu Paraense Emílio Guild. Hein, a palavra é tua. E o canto é teu. Não sei se...
Ok. Boa tarde, gente. Good afternoon. Let me just share my screen. Can I, Bruna? I can share my screen, can't I? Can people see my screen?
Tudo bem.
Can people hear me?
Yes, it's fine.
Yes.
And you can see the screen as well?
Perfect.
Okay, that's great. Anyway, the title here is in English, and I will speak in English, but the PowerPoint will be in Portuguese. And there may be some of my friends from Rondônia watching, so I kept it in Portuguese, the PowerPoint presentation. And also, eu vou falar pouquinho para agradecer a comunidades com as quais eu trabalhei por muitos anos, desde os anos 90. Agradeço os povos indígenas do sul de Rondônia, especialmente os Aikanã, os Quasá. Agradeço as pessoas cujas gravações eu estou utilizando nessa apresentação, né? PI, UNIC, quer dizer, seu PI, faleceu no ano passado por causa do Covid. Ele foi o último tocador da flauta purikii. Eu vou entrar mais nesse assunto da música e das palavras da flauta. Ele foi interpretado por Canderé, que já faleceu em 2004, mas ele teve um papel importante para a interpretação das flautas. E também vou entrar um pouquinho, se tem tempo, nos cantos das rituais de iniciação das mulheres, que são lembrados pelo Ankurumai Nikpa, o Maria Tadeu, e Ana Mãe, o Marião. Agradeço meus colaboradores do projeto Dobres, os projetos Dobres, que andavam com muitos anos. Joshua Birchall, linguista no projeto. Catarina Grunt, antropóloga do projeto. Cândida Aikanã, assistente indígena, que fez muito trabalho para nós. Agradeço também no CNPq para uma bolsa de produtividade sobre esse tema que estou falando. And I thank the Volkswagen Stiftung for financing so many years of my projects. The background, o pano de fundo, the background of this slide shows you already what's going on where I work. The green patches are where the indigenous where some indigenous areas are. The big green patch on the right, that's where the Aikanã and the Quasar live, with the Latunde and some remnants, Sabané and Salamãe. Another patch in the northwest, that's a mixed area of Aikanã and Quasar. So those are the two places where you have Aikanã and Quasar, and where you have Aikanã, principally, who are the topic of my talk. And down there in the center, you have Kanoe, remnant Kanoe. And in the corner on the left, you have a part of the Mekens Sacarabiot area. Okay, to contextualize this place more in the continent, it's a part of the southeast of Rondônia. Rondônia is a Brazilian state almost in the center of the continent. These two little yellow patches on the right down below are the two reserves where the Aikana live. The reserve Quasar do Rio São Pedro and the reserve Tubarão Latunde. Anyway, the Aikana language is one of the 25 languages of Rondônia. It's a language isolate. It is morphologically a very complex language. It has classifiers, valency modifying elements, it's all suffixing, mostly suffixing. It has mood marking of different types for subordinate sentences and for matrix sentences. It is a switch reference system. It's morphologically complex and very interesting. There are also traces of contact with other languages, like isolates Kanwe and Quasar, and they may form perhaps a kind of little linguistic sub-area, but that's all very vague still, the hypothesis of the Guapore linguistic area. Of the about 400 people who ethnically identify as Aikanã, there are some 250 who still speak Aikanã as a native language. The language is very alive. It's a very vital language. It's learned by the youngest generation as a first language. There is even some language acquisition as a second language, historically, and even with Joshua, even actually, he managed to learn quite a bit. Speaking, using the language, which I always find difficult. And the language is acquiring new domains, like in social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, and the local municipal politics. The language is used there. On the other hand, monolingual Aikanã marriages are diminishing. Most people have to marry out of the Aikanã speaking group. And in that case, Portuguese nowadays tends to be the family language. And Portuguese nowadays is the lingua franca of the reserves. So Aikana is also losing domains, especially respectful speech, other registers, the magical use of language. It's gone a long time ago with the last shamans in the 1980s. And what's also getting lost is understanding. The younger generation don't really understand very well the mythology, the details of the mythology, the meaning of things, and also of the music. The music also represents mythology and special language use. And that's understanding of it is getting lost. Okay, here is a photo of COPI Aikanã, whom the COVID pandemic took from us away. He was the last speaker or last player and speaker of the purikii sacred flutes. The Aikana language has been documented for the first time a little bit by Nordenskiöld on his trip in 1914. He called them the Wari. He made a little word list. No one knew what it was, but the Aikana would definitely recognize 99% of this word list still. Nordenskiöld was for a week with the Aikana close to the Corimbiara River, and he wrote down everything that he could, and he even took photos, and he documented also their music in writing and on photographs. He didn't record things. But you see here on the right-hand side, you see the sacred flute, the purikii flute that COPI still played. And then there's a pan flute. This pan flute, I never knew about the pan flute. I only knew it from Nordenskiöld until 2 years ago when COPI suddenly pulled out a pan flute. It started playing on it. So I had the chance to document that. Otherwise, we would never have anything of that. There's another type of music that the Aikana play as well. It's been documented by Snedlage in the 1930s in the south of Rondonia. Many groups there he visited in the time when there was hardly any contact with outsiders, and they share very much the tradition of playing a kind of clarinet. And Snedlage never met the Aikana. The Aikana always fall outside of the anthropological literature, almost always, not always. But so their everything points to it that they're straight in the same cultural complex, and their musical traditions also, even though the actual details are different, of course. This is another slide of the people playing these clarinets. Everyone has one tone, and the whole group forms one instrument. And while they play, this is what I could document in the 90s. They have a specific step. They step around, form in a circle, and the circle gyrates slowly. And while it gyrates, due to the way they step, it contracts and it expands, and it contracts and it expands. This typical step I try to draw down there. People don't know how to do that anymore. They still sing and play these clarinets. They still play in a circle, but only the two elderly people know how to do the right steps. But people have forgotten that. There's no time to learn it anymore. They do different things now in their society. Other instruments that Snedlage documented all over the region, the Aikana have them too. And down there you see the purikii again. So just to let you hear some of the music of this sacred flute. I don't know, can you hear it? Bruna, raise your hand if you can hear this. Thank you. Anyway, just to cut it short, because we have little time, P.I. was the last player of this flute. He knew the way to play it. He knew the songs, the flute songs, but he was never able to pass it on to other people. And we may know, for example, in the Aikana music, there is an intertwine of language and music, but not really in the way that was documented and analyzed by Julien Meyer and Danny Moore with the Gavião and the Surui, who can whistle language because they are tone languages. They can whistle language, so when they go hunting in the forest, they don't betray themselves. They don't give themselves away to the animals because they whistle to each other. And just normal daily language, they can whistle. Aikanã is different. The Gavião Surui, they also play their language with flutes. The Aikanã also play language, but in a different way. Aikanã is not a tone language, but their language is connected to the flutes. The flute songs are never sung. The flute songs are played, but they're not sung. But the letters, the words exist, and only some very few people know these words. Some very people remember those words. And this is Canderé explaining what I recorded P.I. and then I took the tape to Canderé with some other people, and Canderé was singing to the tape. So let me play it for you. And so on. The topic of these songs are always related to the boys' initiation rites. and it's mythological. It's about the origin myth and the origin of the initiation rites, and why it's such a serious matter, this boys' initiation rites. The women never could, I think I have very little time left, haven't I? Okay, I don't know how many minutes I have left, but I think I will skip these, otherwise I cannot come to some other topic. Anyway, the topic is the boys' initiation rites. Women cannot see the flutes, they may not hear the flutes, they may not be present. It's a taboo tradition. And I have several recordings that I could analyze with the help of Kandere. I am really only contextualizing this tradition rather than going into the detail. I just want to emphasize what is getting lost, even though the language is still very vital. Everyone speaks it, but things are getting lost, and they're very beautiful things that are getting lost. Anyway, this is just in homage of PI Aikanã, who passed away, and the last flute player. The Aikanã have lost this now. COVID has taken it away from them. They have lost this remembrance of this tradition. In fact, for PI and his contemporaries, they went through the boys' initiation rites. They learned the flute playing during the rituals, during the event, and the songs. They learned everything in that time while they were initiated. But that was over after during the rubber period. That went away. This tradition was aborted, and by pressure from outside, and it doesn't have the same meaning anymore to the present generation. For PI and other people of his age, it's a nostalgic question. For the present day, for the younger generations, it doesn't really have a function anymore. It doesn't remind of a certain function that it once had. It has a symbolic function. It has to do with identity, but they could not get themselves to learn it. It would be imitation. It would never be real to them. And when they tried to learn it from PI didn't have much patience. He said, you're playing it all wrong. So that's not a way to pedagogically teach this kind of thing to insecure young people. Anyway, there is another tradition for the women, and that's the initiation of girls. When they have their first menstruation, they are locked up in a part of the big communal house or in a little hut, and they're kept there for a few months. And when they're liberated, so to say, then there's a big party, and there are specific songs to it. And there are some elderly women who went through these rituals, and this is a tradition that the people are trying to revitalize. The boys' initiation, I don't see any revitalization tendencies, but the girls' initiation, yes. It's probably easier just to sing, because the musical tradition that is linked to girls' initiation is singing. As you remember, the women could not assist or see or hear the flutes. Anyway, these are the singers. And I just copied two little songs. I don't know if I have time. I will play this one. The songs are about the
Fine.
Yes?
I think that you have my 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, good. Then I will play both. The songs tend to be about the party, about dancing together, about singing, about the women having to get shisha, the maize beer, the manioc beer. It's all the topics of that context. But their songs are very poetic. Next one. No, this is the same. Let me just stop this one. Yes. Sorry. There we go. Second song. Anyway, so today the songs are being revitalized, so to say. The kids are taught these songs at school and at community parties. Sometimes when the elderly people are present, they will sing these songs, all of them together, which is very nice and very beautiful. But what the meaning is of these songs, okay, the language is original Aikana. There are some archaic traces in it, and there is some euphonic stuff like this singing syllables. But there are also things that have to be explained to the younger generation and to people like me. I'm also a novato in this respect. So this is the kind of stuff that is getting lost, even though the language is very much alive. So that is basically what I wanted to say. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Huan. É difícil entender. Pode this sharing your presentation maybe.
Okay, yes.
But we have just a few minutes, 5 minutes, no more for questions.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's beautiful. Thank you. Estou vendo aqui a Aline com a mão levantada. Aline, pode falar.
Não, é só um comentário de quem está triste de estar no modo remoto, porque eu fiquei pensando que se a gente tivesse no modo presencial, a Bruna Aquém, gerente, iria contar muito do trabalho dela, que ela mostra o canto de nomeação feminina, trabalho de iniciação científica de falante nativa. E ela mostra como os dois lados da sociedade, das duas metades da sociedade xerente, tem nomeações diferentes e cada canto. E daí ela conseguiu registrar cada um desses cantos. E, enfim, a gente não trouxe aqui, porque não tem análise linguística ainda, a gente não fez análise. Mas eu fiquei pensando como ela iria estar aqui e gostar de ver o seu trabalho e poder aprender e discutir, você aprender com ela. que é maravilhoso, assim. É uma pena que não é. Desculpa, só para passar essa tristeza e alegria de estarmos aqui.
Concordo, é uma pena. Próxima vez tem que ser ao vivo de novo, né? Não online.
Claro. Online inclui e exclui também.
Também.
Bernat.
Oi, Hein. Obrigado pela apresentação. Achei muito interessante. A Bruna, acho que você fez um eco com o seu microfone. No meu trabalho com os Miki e com os Iranche, encontrei também uma versão desse mito de um menino que saiu para ver os espíritos quando ele não podia e foi morto pelos homens da aldeia, e a lenda vai em outras direções. Entre tanto as duas comunidades, os Manuqueiranche como os Miki, as flautas de Pan são flautas não sagradas, elas são o instrumento normal tocado nas festas. Tem outro tipo de flautas que são sagradas. Eu não consegui ver elas porque eu não sou iniciado e nas duas comunidades está muito vivo esta restrição de ter sido iniciado. Eles não conseguiram fazer de novo a iniciação há alguns anos porque faleceu um ancião que era o diretor da iniciação, mas estou esperando ser iniciado para poder ver e participar nisso. E nem consigo falar sobre esses espíritos que eles chamam os vizinhos e dizer que são flautas, porque realmente para eles mantém muito essa ideia que são espíritos que não são flautas, que são os espíritos para os não iniciados. Era só um comentário, mas não sei se está muito vivo a parte mais de tabu, poderíamos dizer, em Rondônia, entre os Aikanã, entre outras comunidades que têm essa tradição.
Sim, a flauta dos Aikanã, ele representa os antigos, os primórdios, que ensinaram tudo, né? Aprenderam tudo dos animais e ensinaram essas tradições para as novas gerações. Mas tinha muito tabu, e essa rapaz, na mitologia, ele quebrou o tabu, porque durante seu período de iniciação, ele fez sexo com uma menina, aí os velhos perceberam isso no seu cocar, né? Nos adornos do corpo, perceberam que ele tinha feito alguma coisa errada, e matam ele e devoram ele. E nos outros cantos, o espírito dele está chamando mamãe, mamãe, porque você não trouxe o xixi, agora essa menina me seduziu e estou morto agora. Estou com sede, mamãe.
Obrigada, gente. Cristiane, Valquíria, não vamos ter tempo, eu acho. Só se for muito rápido. Cristiane, diga, rapidíssimo, por favor. Não estamos ouvindo.
Cristiane, o sinal está cortando. É uma pergunta rápida. Existe uma relação entre nome e a possibilidade de acesso a instrumentos musicais? Eu pergunto porque, junto ao povo Gavião do Maranhão, o pessoal do Copcati, eles me informavam que existe uma relação entre o nome que a pessoa recebe e o fato dela poder ou não ter acesso a uma buzina cerimonial que existe, né? Não se fala sobre isso?
Não tem.
Interessante. Obrigada, Rainha.
Obrigada, gente.
Eu já tenho uma pergunta rapidinho.
Eu queria fazer só um comentário, que você falou, Huan, que as mulheres não podiam ver nem ouvir as flautas purikii, mas acabaram de ver e ouvir as flautas, né? Então, só para assustar, não assustar ninguém, né? Para falar, dar um contexto nisso, nos anos 70, na boca do rio, era uma loca onde guardava as flautas, né? Guardava separado das mulheres um acidente. E foi depois disso que a comunidade decidiu largar desse tabu de as mulheres não poder ver as flautas. Então, a partir dos anos 70, lá para os 80 para frente, tocava as flautas publicamente e não só em contextos somente para homens. Só para ninguém pensar que quebrou o tabu aqui.
Obrigado.
Tá bom. Gente, vamos... Obrigada por todo mundo. Tem muitas questões levantadas, relação entre flautas, canto e as flautas que falam, né? Tem no Xingu também assim, de outro modo, mas
Muito rico.
é muito rico.